Imagine living in a world where the air carries death, where your neighbors and loved ones perish around you. This was the reality for the people of 14th century Europe, a time and place marked by hardship, fear, and the specter of a disease that would come to be known as the bubonic plague. 14th century Europe was a tumultuous place. The continent was caught in the throes of socio-economic upheaval, with the feudal system in decline and the early stirrings of the Renaissance just beginning to take root. The population was booming, cities were expanding, and trade was flourishing. But with growth and prosperity came overcrowding, poverty, and a lack of sanitation. These conditions created a perfect breeding ground for disease. Meanwhile, far to the east, a deadly plague had taken hold. Originating in Asia, this terrifying disease was spreading rapidly, leaving death and destruction in its wake. It is believed to have been the bubonic plague, caused by the bacterium Yersinia pestis, and transmitted through the bite of infected fleas that lived on black rats. As trade routes expanded and connected the farthest reaches of the known world, these rats and their deadly cargo found their way onto merchant ships. These ships then set sail for Europe, unwittingly carrying the seeds of a catastrophe that would reshape the continent. As the ships docked in European ports, the rats scurried ashore, bringing with them the bubonic plague. The disease spread swiftly, carried by fleas from person to person, from town to town. It was merciless and indiscriminate, affecting the rich and the poor, the old and the young, the healthy and the sick. Within a short span of time it had taken hold across Europe, leaving no corner untouched. Now the stage is set. The bubonic plague, also known as the Black Death, has arrived in Europe. In a matter of months, the bubonic plague spread like wildfire across Europe. An invisible enemy was on the loose, capitalizing on the conditions of the time and the general lack of medical knowledge. The 14th century was a ripe setting for the plague's rapid dissemination. Cities were densely packed, and hygiene was not a paramount concern. The streets doubled as sewage systems, while rats and fleas, the very vectors of this deadly disease, thrived in these unsanitary conditions. The plague was not a courteous visitor. It announced its presence with a host of horrifying symptoms that struck fear into the hearts of those living in its shadow. Fever, chills, and weakness were the first signs of infection. Then, painful and swollen lymph nodes, or buboes, gave the disease its name. These buboes would turn black and necrotic, a ghastly reminder of the devastating power this disease wielded. But how did it spread so quickly? Well, the plague was an insidious foe, using both rats and human fleas as its transportation. These pests would bite an infected host, then move on to the next unsuspecting victim, spreading the infection far and wide. This, coupled with the dense population and poor sanitation, created the perfect storm for a pandemic. The mortality rate was staggering. It's estimated that between 30 to 60% of Europe's population fell victim to the plague. That's about 25 million people in just 5 years, leaving towns and cities eerily empty, and families torn apart by loss. Medical knowledge of the time was no match for this invisible enemy. Treatments were rudimentary at best, often based on superstition rather than science. Physicians were powerless in the face of such a merciless adversary, and their inability to provide a cure only fueled the spread of fear and panic. In just a few years, the bubonic plague would decimate the population of Europe. Its rapid spread and high mortality rate would leave an indelible mark on the pages of history, forever reminding us of the devastating power of disease. The bubonic plague didn't just kill people, it transformed societies. Imagine, if you will, a world where the foundations of society as you know it are crumbling, not slowly, but rapidly and definitively. That was the reality for those who survived the bubonic plague. This was not a disaster that merely ended lives, it was an event that reshaped the very fabric of civilization. One of the most significant changes was the decline of feudalism. This system, which had been the backbone of society for centuries, was built on the labor of the peasant class. But with so many of these workers wiped out by the plague, the survivors found themselves in a position of unexpected power. They could demand better conditions and higher wages, and the ruling classes had no choice but to comply. The balance of power was shifting, and the labor class was on the rise. As the plague raged on, people began to question the religious institutions that had failed to protect them. The church, once a beacon of hope and a source of solace, was now seen as impotent in the face of such a relentless enemy. Many turned their backs on the faith, causing a crisis in the church that would echo for centuries. The plague also had a profound economic impact. With so many people dead, there were fewer people to work the fields, craft goods, and trade. This caused a severe labor shortage, leading to a spike in wages and a rise in the cost of goods. The economic landscape was forever altered, setting the stage for a new era of capitalism. It's hard to fathom the magnitude of the changes that the bubonic plague brought about. It was a cataclysmic event, a turning point in history that led to the transformation of social, economic, and political structures. It was a time of great upheaval, but also a time of great opportunity for those who survived. In the wake of such devastation, the survivors found themselves in a drastically different world. Despite the darkness of the plague years, humanity survived, adapted, and learned. In the aftermath of the bubonic plague, the world was irrevocably altered. The population decimated by the disease took several centuries to recover. But recover it did. The world's cities, once teeming with life, slowly began to fill with the sounds of commerce and industry once more. In Europe, the plague had a profound impact on society. The severe population loss led to a scarcity of labor, which in turn led to increased wages for the working class. This shift in economic power laid the foundation for the end of feudalism and the dawn of the Renaissance, a period of cultural, artistic, political, and economic rebirth following the Middle Ages. The plague also spurred scientific inquiry. As people sought to understand what caused the disease and how it spread, the seeds of modern medicine were planted. Theories were proposed, tested, and refined, leading to a better understanding of disease transmission and the importance of sanitation. Fast forward to today, the bubonic plague is caused by a bacterium known as Yersinia pestis. It's primarily transmitted through the bite of an infected flea that has feasted on an infected rodent. With this knowledge, we can prevent the spread of the disease by controlling the population of rats and fleas, improving sanitation, and educating people about the risks and symptoms. Modern medicine has also given us antibiotics which, if administered early, can effectively treat the bubonic plague. This is a far cry from the days of the plague doctors with their beak-like masks filled with herbs and spices, who could offer little more than comfort to the afflicted. However, the lessons of the past are not to be forgotten. The plague serves as a reminder of the devastating impact of disease and the importance of public health measures. It's a testament to our resilience, our capacity to adapt, and our relentless pursuit of knowledge. From the ashes of the plague-ridden world, a new era dawned, an era of enlightenment and change. The bubonic plague, a name that still sends chills down our spine, a disease that emerged from the shadows of history, casting a long and deadly shadow over humanity. It's a tale that begins in the remote corners of the world, where the bacterium Yersinia pestis first took root in the bodies of fleas, which then found their way onto rats, and from there, onto humans. The spread of the plague was swift and relentless, carried by traders and travelers along the Silk Road, reaching the bustling cities of Europe in the blink of an eye. It was an insidious enemy, invisible to the eye but deadly in its touch. It crept into homes and communities, leaving devastation in its wake. The impact of the plague was profound and far-reaching. It decimated populations, toppling economies, altering societies, and reshaping the course of history. At its peak, it claimed the lives of nearly 2/3 of Europe's population, a loss that would take centuries to recover. Yet in the face of such calamity, humanity showed remarkable resilience. Society adapted, science advanced, and in the aftermath, the world emerged changed, but unbroken. Our understanding of the plague has grown over the centuries, revealing it not just as a historical event, but as a part of our biological and cultural heritage. Today, the plague serves as a stark reminder of our vulnerability to disease and the power of microbes. But it also stands as a testament to our ability to endure, to learn, and to overcome. We remember the plague not just for its death toll, but for the lessons it taught us about our own humanity, about resilience in the face of adversity, and about the power of knowledge and understanding. The plague, a grim chapter of our history, a testament to human resilience, and a reminder of the power of disease. As we look back on this dark period, we are reminded of the strength and resilience that define us as a species, and as we look forward, we do so with the knowledge that we have faced the worst and emerged stronger, ready to face whatever challenges the future may hold.